All right. Good morning, class. Welcome to week number 12. That is right, week number 12 of your 9443 class, which is your academic libraries class. I am, as always, your professor, Dr. Jace K. Austin, and this one is going to be a little shorter. The reason this one's going to be a little shorter, and I know I say that, but I say that a lot, but it's going to be the case this time. I owe you all sincere apologies. I am behind in the grading of your 1,000-word essays, but I want to have those graded by November 13th because your 1,500-word essays, your finals are due on December 13th. And so I want you all to have a full month with the feedback that you, with your feedback from the 1,000-word essay to build on and do, just be in the right direction, basically, for your 1,500-word essay, okay? Also, this is actually my third attempt trying to record this because first my computer restarted and then second, the second attempt, my microphone stopped working. I don't know what's going on, but with the technology woes, well, I do know that the school restarted the computer because they were sending some updates, but I don't know what happened with my mic. But anyway, not going to dwell on that too long, but I'm just saying that I have already put way more time into recording this video than the 135 mark that you see right now would suggest. But there are some things that I want to say about the 1,000-word essay. I do have the right to alter assignments with notice. I have that right within the syllabus, but I do have to give notice if I do that. And here's one thing that I'm going to do, and please don't, when I first mentioned in one of my early videos, I did mention that yes, when I expect more, it's going to come out that I expect more. And there has been a very wide range so far of the 1,000-word essays that I have graded. Most of them have actually been really, really good, but the ones that have been bad, I can tell that the effort there was lacking, and I do want better for you all. I want better out of you all. One of the things that is kind of getting to me, you all are adults. You're in a graduate program, and so these zero sourced or these papers that have zero sources or one source, that's just not going to cut it, folks. You don't have to have 10 sources to pull off a good 1,000-word essay. I realize that. But when I see zero sources or one source, zero sources shouldn't be happening at all, by the way, because, yes, I explicitly do say that this is an APA format, and there's no need to really have an APA format going on if you are not citing sources. But you all are in grad school, so it should be a given. It should be an assumption that you're going to be citing sources. And one source, you all can do better than that. I'm just, but what I am going to do based on what I see, whatever I see with the rest of these ones that I grade, if I don't see too many more zero or one sourced essays, then I'm going to be cool. But if I see a bunch more or a significant amount more, then I am going to institute on the final essay a 10 source minimum. And I don't want to do that because you all are adults. That's something that you do for high school students. But if I have to do that, then I will do that. It'll just depend on what I see on the rest of these assignments. But that doesn't apply to, it applies to more of you than I wanted so far, but it doesn't apply to all of you or even the majority of you so far. But, you can, a lot of you did like 3 or 4 sources on the 1,000-word essay, and that's good. If you did 5 or more, then that's great, and I hope I applauded you for that. If I didn't applaud you for that in your comments, then I will applaud you for that now. I would say that probably a minimum of 5 sources in a 1,500-word essay would be appropriate. But again, I'm not trying to institute minimums because you all are adults. But once I'm finished grading, if I do see a whole lot more one source or zero source papers, I am going to institute that 10 source minimum. And I will send out an announcement in the class saying that the rubric has been altered to reflect that. So, just here's the rule of thumb that I want you all to follow. And that rule of thumb is because again, I want you all to get jobs. It may seem like I'm a hard ass, but really it's tough love. That's how I was brought up. That's how I roll. And that's how we do in the South. I do think things are a little different here in the Midwest, but in the South, tough love is, that's a big thing. That's how people roll. But having said that, um, one of the things that I want you all to keep in mind as you do your final is think about wanting somebody to do a letter of recommendation for you. Like I write letters of recommendation for my students a lot. And so what I would say is if you're asking for a professor to write a letter of recommendation for you as you pursue a job or as you pursue a PhD program, which some of you will do, if that's what you're wanting, then, put forth the effort. Assume that I would say that with going forward, assume that you want me to think you're a good student because you may want me to write a letter for you. And if you approach it that way, then I think that there will be some improvement and some more effort. Okay. So that's where I am with it, but I'm not going to dwell on that. I don't want to come off as too negative. And again, the majority, it's been more one source and zero source papers than I've wanted, but the majority of you have done at least 3 sources, which was appropriate for a 1,000-word essay. It makes me feel like I don't need to actually institute some sort of minimum, but it's going to, once I finish grading, then I will let you all know if I am changing it to requiring that 10 source minimum, because I do want you all to another thing that you're going to need to keep in mind is if you get a job in academic libraries, you may be on a tenure track or a reappointment track to where you do have to publish. And so if you do have to publish, then you're not going to be oftentimes publishing things with just 1 source or 0 sources. Okay. All right. So that's all we're going to say about that. I will say, before we get into I'm going to talk a little bit about services to non-affiliated people, services to people who are not faculty, staff, or students at your university. But before I do that, I do want to say on a completely positive note, I know there was some negativity with the assignment that I had to share there, but as far as your discussions, they are still going good. They're still going strong. I'm still proud of the work you all are doing on the discussion boards. And it really does show. I do look to see, if your discussion responses reflect reading the material. And for the most part, I'm probably not going to call anybody out if it doesn't look like their post reflects that they read the material, but that's what I'm looking at, and that is going to affect your, definitely it's going to affect pluses or minuses within your grade range as per the syllabus. So if you are making some discussion board posts that make me think, I don't think you read the material, then, you may, instead of seeing a B, see a B minus or something like that. So keep that in mind. All right. So from there, let's just talk about some services real quick, and I will keep this at 10 minutes or less. Okay, now I'm going to use UMKC as an example. UMKC is the last library that I actually worked as a librarian for. So UMKC is going to be my example for community services. And by community service, yes, it's community services, yes. What I'm talking about is services to those who are not faculty, staff, or students, but who are members of the community at large. And these are often going to have slight nuances and variation from institution to institution. And then there can be very, very big distinctions when you're talking about public universities versus private universities. So that's something else to keep in mind. So that's something that, as a tip, if you're working public services for your university, that's one of the things that you're going to want to learn about your particular institution probably within the first 2 to 3 months of working reference. You want to be very familiar with what your institution's offerings are to the public at large, people who are not faculty, staff, and current students. And that does also include what services are offered to alum. Because if there's one thing that I've seen time and time again, people getting pissed off about, it's these alum who have been misled, probably not by librarians or library staff, but other people on campus or other people at other universities. There's no telling where people are getting their information from, but you will, and I had this happen multiple times at UMKC as well as other libraries that I worked, where people who were alums were like, well, do I get this access as an alum? Do I get that access to a database as an alum? Do I get to check out books for free as an alum? And at a lot of places, the answer to that, actually at most places, the answer to would you get remote access to databases is going to be a big fat no. So a lot of times, what you're going to be dealing with your alum is that they're not going to have remote access to the databases after they graduate. Now, there are going to be some places that allow them to have a discount in a guest borrower program where they are able to check out books and other materials as alums, and they pay at a discounted rate, or they may even be free at some places, and then at some places they don't have that information at all. But that's a very common question that academic librarians get, and so that's something that you are probably going to, again, want to familiarize yourself with within the first 2 to 3 months on the job at your new academic library institution. So that's a tip from Dr. Jace. That's one of those things that people always tell you, man, we didn't learn that in library school. Well, I'm trying to give you the heads up in library school because I'm trying to give you some of the things that I know other programs aren't giving their students. That is one of the things I want you to feel that you made the right choice coming to Mizzou. Maybe you don't, but that's how I want you to feel. So, I will put that out there. That's something that a lot of library science professors are not going to let their students know as a tip, as something that they need to learn pretty close to their hire date. But it's something I'm going to let you know because that's how I roll. Thank you for choosing Mizzou. So what I'm going to do, UMKC is the most recent academic library that I worked at. And so there are some community services that they offer. And there are a few things that are kind of offered to alum that might not be offered to other community members. However, UMKC doesn't make as many distinctions between alum and other community members as some other places that I have seen or worked at or visited. As far as guest borrower programs, this is pretty typical. A lot of times you will find, especially with public academic libraries, you will find, I actually butchered that. Academic libraries at public institutions. That makes a lot more sense than what I said the first time. Academic libraries at public universities, or at community colleges, those a lot of times will have a guest borrower program where you can, sometimes they're free and then sometimes you can actually pay a small fee, but you can join and you can have limited borrowing privileges, and paying the small fee is still usually worth it because those fees are not usually so high that it would behoove somebody to just buy stuff through Amazon instead or something like that. So yeah, the guest borrower programs are usually very cheap, and they usually do allow for people in the community to just, go ahead and borrow resources that might even be hard to find or expensive through Amazon. So it makes it worth your while to go ahead and sign up with the guest borrower program at your university. Now, these things aren't always called guest borrower programs, so you need to see what they might be called at the academic library you work at, but it's the same thing in concept. Guest computer use, this is also something that will change from library to library. And in fact, also COVID at UMKC made it so that guest computer use in the community is no longer available. And hopefully that will change as mask mandates in the city of Kansas City have now been lifted outside of K-12 education. So at the colleges, masks are strongly recommended, but they're no longer required. And hopefully, I do hope that that will lead to us allowing our community members to once again be able to use the computers. And a lot of people rely on the computer labs and academic libraries, or the computers and academic libraries, to do a lot of the work that they need to do. It can vary, for one thing, based on the strength of public libraries in your area, but for some people, yes, the academic library is more convenient, or the academic library, for one reason or another, gives them advantages that the public library does not offer them. So, and you don't want to get into that too much. You don't want to be going around asking the people that are using guest access on your computers. You don't want to go around asking them, why didn't you choose the public library? They're there for a service, and you want to provide that service for them if possible. But again, that's going to differ from institution to institution. And then also it will academic libraries, because they're not academic libraries that are at private colleges, because they don't have as much state support. They will still have financial support from the federal government, usually through financial aid, but they still don't have the state support, for instance, that a UMKC or a Mizzou would have. And in those cases, they may be a little more restrictive on what they allow the community to do. But a lot of times when people are offering reference service and those sorts of things to people who come to the reference desk, they're not even checking to say, well, are you an actual student or faculty or staff at this college? A lot of people who are community members will volunteer that information, but it's not something that you generally ask, because you don't tend to pry. A lot of times librarians just want to give the information. They don't want to pry into who's asking and why. So that is that. I guess researcher programs a lot of times will have enhanced services. As you can see, hold on, my baby is crying. I need to make her a bottle, and then I'll get back. Okay, sorry, I am back. Yes, where did I leave off? You're not going to want to pry into, the backgrounds of who is accessing services and why. Okay, I have basically 2 more minutes. I may go slightly over 20 minutes. Why do I always do this? Anyway, retired faculty and staff, a lot of times they will have like emeritus privileges with some restrictions. But they are often treated, this is not unique to UMKC, it's pretty typical that retired faculty and staff enjoy some pretty solid benefits or solid privileges for using the library that are similar to what they had when they were full-time active faculty. Some other things just to keep in mind very quickly, when you are dealing with libraries, academic libraries that stay open late, then one thing that you're probably going to want to do is make sure that community members who are not affiliated with the school are not in after a certain time frame. And I've seen that vary very widely, from 8 p.m. to 2 a.m. I've seen where, but yeah, I would say that just for safety and security concerns, you probably do want to make sure that after a certain point at night, everybody that is in the academic library has some form of ID, university affiliated ID on them. So I'll put that out there. And actually, I think that is going to do it. The main thing that I want you to take away from this video is that, yes, within the first 2 to 3 months, try to figure out what the service limits are at your library for people who are not current faculty, staff, and students at your at your university, because those will vary by institution, but those are things you get asked a lot, and if you don't brush up on that, it will catch you off guard. I am Dr. J's Peace and Grace, and I'm out.